All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the How to Hunt Deer podcast. I'm your host, Dan Johnson. Other host sitting across from me digitally, Jason Thibodeau. Jason, how we doing, dude?
Not too bad. It's crazy. I mean, we've had some wet weather and stuff, so work's been hit or miss, but we've kind of finally settled into our addition and just kind of unpacking stuff and going through things that we haven't, seen for 9, 10 months. So
Yeah.
outside of that, kids are kind of ramping up for different sports and activities right now, and a little transition time. We just came off of spring break, so.
Yep. Same here. We didn't put a episode out, 2 weeks in a row now? I think it's been 1 or 2 weeks. Anyway.
Yeah.
I had a knee replacement surgery 2 weeks ago. It will be 2 weeks ago this coming Wednesday. And so I'm like 12 days out on this surgery, and I just did not feel like doing anything. Between the pain and the being uncomfortable and all of that stuff, I just decided to pass on a couple episodes there, and hopefully you guys aren't too pissed off about it. But we had our spring break. My daughter had a wrestling tournament in Kansas City, her first ever national tournament, and she wrestled excellent, and she got fifth place in her first national tournament ever. So that's pretty badass. And outside of that, I've had to come to a couple like reality checks here in the last couple days about what I am going to be able to do this spring, right?
Sure.
And this upcoming weekend is supposed to be youth turkey season. Dude, there's no way I'll be able to go out and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Bubba. Have a good day at school. All right, we'll see you. My youngest boy had to come up and give me an ice pack.
Sure.
Yep. So that, and just trying to rehab and recover and get off crutches so I can drive again and knock all of that out. It's kind of the perfect time to do it, because at some point throughout a year, you're going to miss something.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of a quick out of control update on my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you can see, my lighting is terrible right now, and I got lots of shadowing going on, but I've kind of got moved into what will be my new office podcast area. It's a cluster, but we're getting there. So
the background looks good though. You got all your deer and turkeys and everything like that.
There's some Europeans here and stuff, and then I got a couple turkeys on this side, but then the whole other wall that I'm staring at is like all the shoulder mounts and stuff.
Gotcha.
So to have everything in one place, basically I moved everything out of the house and into the basement here, and there's one deer head left upstairs. So
nice.
But yeah.
Nice. So, what's the rule with you and your wife? How many deer heads do you get to put up in the upstairs living room?
I had all of them up there at one point, and so it wasn't a big deal. She knew that going in, that was part of me. And honestly, having this addition, it's really cool to look at it now, because I can sit back and I can see every shoulder, mount of every deer, that I got a story behind every single one of them. And I was able to actually put them all in order of how I shot them and what year and everything. So that's kind of cool. We're putting I don't know, there's going to be like a couch and TV and stuff down here too, just to kind of relax, and the kids can play Wii or whatever they want to do down here. So, it's getting there. Let's just put it that way. So
yeah. Baby steps, right? Baby steps.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll get this lighting figured out, because I didn't realize that, like, when they do new construction and stuff on houses now, that part of the energy code is they have to basically wrap the concrete with an insulation barrier. So like you see the white behind me, that's actually a roll of insulation that they just hammer right into the concrete. I didn't realize that. So
you're downstairs.
I'm in the basement. Yep.
Cool.
So, so hopefully my signal's good. It looks like we're uploading at a good speed and everything. I got the Wi-Fi all readjusted, so we should be pretty good here.
Yeah. But before we finish or move any further, that's kind of a very quick update of what's been going on the last 2 weeks with us. I'm going to send a huge shout out to our partner at Code Blue Scents. we didn't get to talk about them the past 2 weeks, so let's take some time to do that now. So if you are looking for any type of real or synthetic deer attractants, or urines, if you're looking for scent elimination products like body washes, detergents, soaps, field sprays, me and Jason, we use the Rope-A-Dope Mock Scrape kit a lot. We pair that with a good trail camera, and that can tell you a lot about the inventory that is happening on your farm, about the does and fawns. Especially what's cool about it is somewhere about around June is when I start to really freshen them up again, and you'll see these little heads pop up, and you'll start to see some of these fawns make an appearance out in the field edges and things like that. And so not only does it give you that, what big bucks are on your property, but it also helps you know, like, things like fawn recruitment. And, because bucks aren't the only ones hitting the Mock Scrape kit, hitting the Rope-A-Dope. So just go to codebluesense.com, take a look at their full lineup. And if you do decide to purchase, enter the discount code NFC20, wrong discount code.
Yeah.
HTH20, HTH20 for 20% off. So, talk to me a little bit about any deer stuff that you've done. Did you get out and go shed hunting again?
I have not been out shed hunting. I've been working, landscaping now, but then working on the house and stuff. But the cool thing about doing this house thing is I was able to go through sheds that I have. I was going through mounts, and tell some stories. My son was helping me with a little bit of it, and just, reminiscing of it, it gets me kind of fired back up, and then I started looking at, I got to go through all my camo. I have to make a big, like, just dump of I don't need this anymore type stuff. So, I'll be going through stuff and washing stuff and putting I have a closet that I used to use when we had the space. And so I'll put that back together, and I'll store all my stuff in totes and everything. And so I'm looking forward to that part of it. As far as I did go out to 11-acre piece that we own, and for work reasons, but I was out there and I was thinking about food plots, and we're going to be getting real close to that time frame of,
100%.
we're going to have to mow off some of our stuff and till some of it up, and get the food plots rolling for here, spring here. We had the youth turkey season was the past 2 weekends, and as luck would have it, we just had way too much going on, and I wasn't even able to get my kids out. So their experience this year is going to be if they have time to go with me, which if I have time to even go. So
right. Yeah, and that's man, that's life right there. Because that's what I'm thinking about the most. I'm trying to get my knee bent to reach certain things. I'm trying to walk on a cane so I can drive. Because all I really need to do is, like, try to get my kids to my mom's house so my stepdad can take my son turkey hunting. That's really all I need to do for that, because I'm just not going to be able to do it this year. But you mentioned something that one thing that I have a big problem with is organizing my gear after the hunting season is over. Okay, so I shot my buck in November, and then I didn't do anything. I emptied my truck and I put it in a big giant pile in a corner of my garage. And so what did I do? What was it? My March 25th was my surgery. So that previous weekend, I took everything. And when I mean everything, I took everything out of my garage. I organized it. I washed camo. I cleaned it. What else did I do? I organized all my hunting stuff. I gave away some stuff that I don't use anymore. I cleaned my loft above my garage. I took everything out of there, put everything back in. So that was like a 3-day deal. Started Friday afternoon and finished Sunday morning. And that resulted in like 3 truckloads of trash to the dump. And now my garage looks more empty. It looks way cleaner. All of my hunting gear and equipment is organized up in my loft here for the most part. I do have some stuff downstairs in the garage, but that felt really good to get in there and almost take an inventory of what you need versus what you don't need. And the reason I say that is because every year I'll go and buy something, and then I'll use it, and then I'll set it aside, and then I'll go buy the same thing again the next year, not knowing. So, like for example, screw-in steps or screw-in bow hangers. Dude, I
Yeah.
found a pack of like 25 of them that I didn't know I had. And so I,
Yeah.
going through and organizing, and that's what I would highly recommend everybody do if they haven't done that already this time of year, is go through all your gear and equipment, check, um, make sure your straps on your climbing sticks or your tree stands are in good condition. Make sure the cables are in good condition. Look at your bowstring, look at your arrows, look at your boots. Are they going to have holes in them? Is your camo beat up? That kind of stuff. And I did that all a couple weekends ago, and it felt good to purge all of that out.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to it because like, right now, I'm looking at more boxes, and
Yeah.
it's been refreshing to go through some of these boxes and start making a junk pile,
Hmm.
or a pile of stuff to get rid of. I mean, we just there comes a point, like, you just have too much, and
Yeah.
I'm probably the worst at gloves and hats.
Yeah.
And I wear the same hat I've probably worn for 15 years, and it's like I have way too many, but
Yeah.
it's all part of it, and I think you get to a point where when you realize that it's simple is more,
Yeah.
less is more. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. So
Yeah. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about, that something you brought up, was sheds and reminiscing and memories. When I started pulling it, organizing everything, I found some photo albums that I forgot that I had from some of the first turkey hunts that I've ever been on, and some of the first shed hunts that I had ever been on. And, finding some sheds, like I have a piece of barbed wire in my office up here, and it's screwed into the studs. And I hang all my sheds on that. And it's pretty sweet, dude. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty sweet to be able. I couldn't tell you like where I met my wife or when our anniversary is or things like that. But one thing I can tell you is any shed on this wall right here, or even in the pile of the ones that are chewed up, I can pick that shed up. I can twist it around, look at it. I can almost tell you what year it was or exactly where I found it.
yeah,
Right. And this is all before Onyx or anything like that. So, I
it's
love going through and picking one up and telling the story of this particular shed and this particular buck. Maybe I knew him, maybe I didn't, and share that with my son anytime he asks.
Oh, it's crazy. We've only given a couple people like the tour of everything, the addition and stuff. And when we came down here last night, my in-laws were over, and my father-in-law's never seen all these mounts, and he looked at
Yeah.
it and he was like, "Cheapers, creepers," and I said, "Man, we could sit down here for hours and I can tell you story upon story upon story about it."
Yep.
Oh, it's nuts. But
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and my kids, they'll ask all sorts of stories about certain deer, we used to name them, and if you were lucky enough to find the sheds or whatever, they wanna know where you found them, and it's pretty
Yeah.
cool, especially well, my wife came down the other night, and we were talking about some of the deer on the wall, and there's one property in particular, and she's like, "So where'd you shoot this one?" And I was like, "Well, that property, that property, that
Mm-hmm.
property," so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. And the one property is just like a gold mine. And she's like, "That's amazing." I'm like, "It
Yeah.
really is." I said, "But
Yeah.
I've taken all this time, these years to figure that piece out and know how to hunt it, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of like the memories, and speaking of hunting a property for as long as we've hunted, like I've hunted one property since 2007, right? And we're going to be knocking on almost 20 years of hunting this particular farm.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, through the shed hunting, through the hunting of these bucks, have you noticed genetic continuations, I guess you would say, or genetic characteristics of like a specific, like different groups of bucks on the farm that have these characteristics or these traits that have continued throughout the 30 years that or 20 years you've been hunting these farms?
Yeah. So the one main property I've hunted now, this will be year 14 or 15.
Hmm.
And The one common characteristic of a lot of the bucks there is they have short G2s.
Hmm.
They can grow a decent spread. I mean, they're around that 18-inch at fully 3 to 4 years old, but the G2s on them are real short normally. They're
Yeah.
probably in that 5 to 6-inch range. But
Hmm.
then the most common is, they're 10 point if they have that short G2. But
Hmm.
then there was a genetic, gosh, I don't know, it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago, that where a buck, he must have been like a bonus buck, and he just kinda came in, and he must have made it home for a while because he started passing off his genes, and now the big thing that we have is a bunch of 8 points, and they're
Yeah.
gigantic 8 points.
Yeah.
These some of these 8 points, the frames on them, I mean, they're in that 150 range, and
Hmm.
so it's kinda cool to see that. I got the regular doe herd, which I think that kinda dictates a lot of it too, you know what I mean? Because they're passing on, their father's genes as well as the
Yeah.
buck that they're breeding with, so I think, when those does get taken out, obviously you probably lose some of those genetics there, but yeah, there is definitely a lot of
Yeah.
common traits.
On the farm that I've been hunting the longest, there's two that really stick out to me. One is really wide 8 pointers with short tines. So a really good inside spread with decent, like, imagine a 20-inch inside spread with, I don't know, 6-inch G2s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's one genetic that's there. That would be like, I shot in 2020 or 2021, I can't remember, a really wide 24 inside spread. He was probably a 5 or 6 year old who had that same exact characteristic, really wide. He had longer, like 10-inch G2s, but he probably scores in the high 140s, low 150s as an 8 pointer. And then the other one would be just like your quintessential beautiful 8 point buck with the main beams that go straight out,
Yeah.
and then the G2s and threes go straight out as well. But on one side or the other, they're having a kicker or a split brow tine off the base, right?
Hmm.
And so there are a lot of bucks on the farms that I hunt, even at an early age, who show split brows. Some years they're both, some years they're just one. And so I would say that there's a really good genetic for on that farm for split brows or like a kicker off the base. One thing that I have seen, but I have not seen a lot of over the years, is a drop tine. Have you seen a lot of drop tine bucks throughout
Well,
the years?
yeah, it's funny when we start talking about that. There was two bucks in particular that I remember. So you can't quite see it, but the buck that's right here, he's missing this beam.
Yep.
He actually had a drop tine on that side. That's a buck that I shot in 2024 that fall that I had lost and recovered.
Right. Right.
So he was only the second buck that I'd ever seen on that property with a drop tine. I'd have to go back to probably 10 years ago was
Mm-hmm.
the other one, and these drop tines aren't gigantic or anything. I mean, we're in that 3 to 4-inch range, but they're
Right.
still, I mean, you see it, you're gonna be like, "Holy cow, that's cool."
Yep.
Yeah, outside of that, there's been a couple that they'll have, like, a split G2. There has been very few split brows or anything like that. Nothing crazy. You can definitely tell when you get that age class, they're going to start getting some kickers at the bases and stuff. But I think the common age that I see on that property is in that 3 to 4 range, and with a few exceptions of I've seen, a 5 and a 6-year-old deer. But
Mm-hmm.
just kind of knowing your herd, each year. Like this year, I don't know for sure what I'll be hunting in
Yeah.
particular. My cameras are out there, and I'm gonna redo my ropes and scrapes and everything. So I'll probably do that, in June, July timeframe, just to see what's out there. But I know the neighbor from what he said, there's, several that made it through, and we haven't made our schedules match up to where we could shed hunt. He's got a, 50-acre sanctuary basically right across the road, which last year was a gold mine for sheds. And
Yeah.
I now knowing that it's a sanctuary, I'm sure that's where they were all year. So
Yeah.
I I'm curious to see, but
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I never like to. I don't have enough time to daydream like I used to, where I would, you know, think about what are the upcoming bucks and who's going to show back up. I think I mentioned this on the last episode, but the neighbor on the other farm that I hunt found a shed to the biggest buck on the farm last year. I had him at probably a 5-year-old 10-pointer in that one, mid 160s range. And, if he does anything, he might be that next 175 class 10. He had some junk around his bases, but one thing that I know there's guys out there who every year they seem to have a non-typical deer on their farm,
yeah.
right? Something with a lot of junk. That's one thing that I've never really had. And that would been like flyers and splits, and you know what I mean? Like I've
Yeah.
never had a ton I've chased one deer my entire life that was a non-typical freak. And outside of that, all fairly typical. I mean, a lot of 9-pointers, but fairly typical deer.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the one I was just talking about with the drop tine on it that broke his beam off. He was probably the gnarliest deer that
Yeah.
I've chased. I did
Yeah.
have one several years ago that at 3 years old he was a giant and he had like 16 points, and then at 4 years
Yeah.
old he actually kind of went the other way, and then he grew on mass and tine length and lost
Yeah.
some of the junk. But it's amazing what they do in a year's time, and if you just sit and think about like, well, that's a 3-year-old, that's a 4-year-old, and so on and so forth. I mean, personally, every year, I'd like to shoot something bigger and better, but
Yeah.
we talked about it probably more so last year throughout the entire season, about just kind of stepping back and just enjoying the whole process of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where I've gotten with it is, I mean, granted, if something spectacular walks by, yes, I'm gonna shoot it. But just as in the same breath, that 8 point might be what gets me excited, or I need to put meat in the freezer. So,
Yep.
and it's always been now like my priority is my kids. So
Hmm.
so if we're not at a sporting event, I'm trying to get them into the outdoors.
Yep. Yep. That's a fact. That's a fact. Um, okay. I don't want to talk about it today because I think this deserves an entire episode, but give me an idea of a time frame, depending on weather, obviously, of when you're starting to break ground for food plots.
Well, if it was dry, I would potentially be doing something here in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. All right, cool. So
I
next
mean,
week, our conversation has to be food plots.
yeah, I'd like to think that. I mean, temperature wise, we're still going to be a little bit cold as far as putting
Yeah.
anything in the ground, but I would definitely like to see, by the end of April, I'd like to see the food in the ground for sure. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we've got stuff that we have to mow, we have stuff that we have to till under and everything. So, I'd like to have that prep work done by then, because if
Yeah.
we start getting into May, I'm too busy with work to even mess with it. So I'd like to have everything prepped by the end of the
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. Yep. That's a fact. I'm trying to think. Is it too late to frost seed? Probably.
I mean, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, it's kind of one of those things that we've had some pretty extreme temperatures, like high and low, and
Hmm.
I think you kind of miss that window because it's like anything. If you put in, if you seed a new yard, and you go out on a Monday to start watering it, you water it Monday, and you don't water it again till Thursday or
Yeah.
Saturday. That it just almost ruins your seed and your product. So
Yeah.
you just kind of want that consistent temperature. So like
Yeah.
frost seeding in my mind has always been get it in before it's done frosting for the year, and then as the temperatures start to rise and increase, that's actually when it's going to gain that moisture that
Yeah.
it actually needs.
Yeah. Yeah. So the one thing that I didn't get to, was the habitat work that I wanted to this year. You know, I took the boys shed hunting, and we did some tree stand movement. We did some shed hunting, but I didn't get the opportunity to get in there with a chainsaw and do the project that I wanted to, just because of time constraints, right? And
Right.
so I didn't get to that. I'm a little bummed that I didn't make it a priority. I don't think it's going to necessarily affect the farm or change anything, because it's not. But I wanted to do that consistently throughout the years, so I'm going to try to make that a priority next year. Outside of that, man, we're in a weird stage right now where it's like holding pattern right now. There's not much to do except shoot your weapon.
Yeah.
If you're that guy, I like. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, man. Like, I between this knee, I'm not picking up a bow for a while. Like,
Yeah.
my main focus right now is getting out and trying to um, just get as many hot laps in with my crutches on the road, to try to wake the knee up and put some weight on it to get off the crutches, to get on the cane. Once I'm on the cane, then I can technically drive again and start driving myself back and forth to these appointments. Right now, my parents are coming, and and helping me out, like taking me to my uh,
Appointments,
appointments,
rehab.
my rehab appointments and things like that. So, but outside of that, like, I've got my organization done. I'm not doing a Western hunt this year because of this. Um, and so really what it comes down to is, let me ask you this question. If I was going to force you and I said, hey, you need to dedicate 30 minutes a week. This week, I want you to sit down 30 minutes and dedicate it to deer hunting. Where are you going to, what are you going to dedicate that time to?
Oh, right now, 100% organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I would probably make a space here in the basement to basically put all my camo, all my totes, all my backpacks, everything together, and just basically open it up and go through the stuff and kind of use that, man, did I use that last year mentality, or did I use
Mm-hmm.
that the year before, or has it been 5 to 10 years since I've even touched it?
Right.
Cuz it's really there's just the taking up space and sitting there when maybe somebody else could use it, whether it's my
Right.
kids or whether it's a buddy. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to over the years to collect and buy and purchase so many different things that there's so much I got that
Yeah.
maybe somebody else can use it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I really do think that that's going to help everybody prepare for the next season. I got my organization done. If I was going to take 30 minutes and this week and dedicate it to deer hunting, I, I, I think I'm going to just sit for 30 minutes and take another look at, like, Onyx on, like, a LiDAR setting or something like that, and really try to focus on getting to know my properties again. Taking a look and maybe just, yeah, I've been hunting it for X number of years, but is there something I'm missing? Right? Is there a different way I can access something? Like, have a whole bunch of, like, theoretical conversations, like, what is this stand good for this? If I did have a buck in here, because the a lot of our properties, you can only access from one direction, right?
Yeah.
But if there's a deer in there, you need to be in there. So how do you get to that same tree stand on a bad wind in hopes of trying to kill that buck on a bad wind? I think that I think that's where a lot of people don't put a lot of thought into. That's just a guess, and
Mhm.
and from a strategy standpoint, and I really do feel like there's always multiple ways to kill a buck.
Well,
You know
I
what I
didn't
mean?
yeah, I was gonna say I didn't necessarily use the terminology that you used before, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd ever heard it even necessarily from you without paying attention to until we had gone to Nebraska and you said something about J hooking in. And
Yeah.
thinking about it, there's so many times with these properties I can only access, say, just from the east,
Yep.
and not realizing it all these years, like maybe I would come from the south or the north, which I mean, I had to start from the east, but then I would J hook into that and go
Yep.
back into that, and I guess each person has a different terminology for it, but defining those different ways is probably, I mean, obviously what you're hitting on there, and you can utilize just so many different strategies off of that, and the property
Yep.
does not become junk necessarily just because it's a bad wind.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
What one Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say,
No, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, so when you asked me like the 30 minutes this week, well, I think what I was getting at too with it is efficiency, right?
Yes.
So when you have more more gear, more hunting land, more um things, you become less efficient.
Yeah.
You know, because like if you get in your truck and your backpack's just unloaded and opened up and everything in there, you could probably eliminate half of the stuff. You know, you're so much quicker in the stand to grab what you need, or you're so much
Yep.
quicker when it goes to I'm back at my truck, it's nighttime, and I'm gonna put my bow in the case, I'm gonna put my bag in here, and I'm going home instead of I gotta undo 36 different things and put them in my backpack. I think efficiency has become one thing that's maybe with age, and I
Yeah.
think, you know, I've always been OCD about things, but I think organization, you know, in chaos, I mean,
Yeah.
is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So this has kind of just been a really quick, really in your face, talked a lot about a whole bunch of different things on this episode. But next week, we're going to really rely on your expertise in the, would you call yourself between professional and average Joe? Where do you lie on the food plot game?
Well, obviously, you know, I seed yards and stuff for a living. I mean, that's part of what I do, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't say, you know, food plots are by far, I'm no expert. You know, I would say
Yeah.
I'm in the top 50%, let's put it that way. You know, so
Gotcha.
if you have 100%, I'm above 50%. You know,
Gotcha.
I'll get you something to grow, and it'll be substantial enough that it'll attract what you need to attract. You know,
Perfect.
I was thinking real quick while you said that, about the food plots situation and not having the time. You know, the one property I never have the time for is probably my most successful property, but I took the time last year and I put a throw and grow in, which is something I
Hmm.
had done for several years in a row on this property, and it's beneficial. So if
Yeah.
it's an hour or 2 hours that you can invest in it, it might be worth it.
Right. Right. And that's what we're going to talk about next weekend or next week. So stay tuned for a specific food plot, how-to food plot episode here on the How to Hunt Deer podcast. If you guys could do us a huge favor, go to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you download the How to Hunt Deer podcast, leave us a 5-star review. We do have our How to Hunt Deer YouTube channel. Please go and check that out and subscribe to that. Other than that, everybody have a good rest of your week. Jason, good vibes your way, man.
All right, you too, man. Get
And
better.
yeah, when's your baby due?
May 20th, but we did find out that
Woo!
she's not going to May 20th. So it'll probably be a week before is what we're guessing.
Okay.
So
So you're crunch time here.
yeah, so that's what I say, man. We're moved in the addition. Like we've slept in our bedroom for you know, a week now, and now it's just I'm building 8 different cubbies for like our mudroom area, you know, but
Yeah.
doors are up, trim's up, flooring's done, things are painted. You know, now it's just kind
Perfect.
of finding a place for each little knickknack thing. So,
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I'm sending good vibes your way, man. Have a great week and we'll talk to you next time.
all right, see ya.